Well, if you can hear me out there, just give me a thumbs up. Thank you. So welcome everyone to Arlington Branch NAACP Unit 7047, our August 2020 general meeting. We call it our general membership meeting, but we open it up to the public as well. I want to thank you again for being with us. We know there's a lot going on tonight, especially on TV, but just to spend a couple of hour and a half here with us is going to be quite well, and I think we're going to have some fun. As you know, my name is Julius Spain. I am the president of the Arlington Branch NAACP, and I have been for about a year and a half. We have a packed agenda tonight. We also have an assistant working with us tonight. You may see her name up there, Karen Jones. She is helping us out in the background with letting people in, and we'll be muting people as appropriate. But with that said, some housekeeping rules. If you have a question tonight, what we're going to ask is that you use the icons at the bottom or in the chat, put a question up for the speaker. We will do our best to get to you. Karen will be monitoring that as well. So we're gonna have everyone actively participate in today's meeting as much as possible. After we close out around 9 o'clock, as we said in the agenda, I will stay online for about 15 minutes or so, along with some of the members of the executive committee to answer any questions that you may have of us. So with that being said, again, the meeting is called to order. I'm gonna allow you to go ahead, keep yourselves muted there, but I'm gonna do a brief roll call. Secretary, are you present with us, Keisha Tinsley? If so, unmute yourself. Keisha? Okay, I know she's on here. Karen, do you see Keisha?
I do not. Let me. Yes. Keisha, if you could unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. You had to give me permission. How's everyone doing?
Thanks, Keisha. If you could do a brief roll call of our officers. I know some are at meetings, but if we could just go down the elected officers and also the executive committee. And for those members, if you're present, say aye or present or put something in the chat so we'll know you're here. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Keisha?
Mute. Yes, I had to get unmuted. I'm sorry again.
It's okay.
Okay, do we have the Vice President Kent Carter available?
He's currently at the.
Yeah, he's here. He texts here.
Yeah.
Do we have Executive Director Karen Nightingale available?
I saw her coming in.
She probably can't talk either.
She's here.
Okay. Yeah. Kent is everybody is muted. Karen will have to unmute you individually.
As long as she's here, just go ahead and move on.
Okay, great. Do we have the William White Treasurer here? Present?
I don't think he's logged on yet, but I received it.
Great. Roy Austin, Assistant Treasurer.
He's here. I saw him.
Rosa Dunkley, Assistant Secretary.
She is not here.
Okay, thank you. Executive Committee, Tim Dempsey.
He's here.
Jill. Is Jill here?
She's here.
Okay, Detta.
Yes.
Great. Am I missing anyone?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Madam Secretary. Okay, so this brings us to briefly. Let me just say a few things before we get started with the agenda. We had an executive committee meeting a few days ago to talk about finances and right now our balance in the account is $6,454.33 in the credit union account. So something just popped up on my screen, and please excuse me. I know we're in a public forum. Low system resources affect your. It's like this thing wants to die. I hope not. But yeah, we have a little bit over $6,000 in the financial account, bank account. If any of the members would like to see that report, please feel free to email us and we can share that with you individually or separately. So there's been a lot going on. And I will say since the last time we had a meeting, many of you that are on this call today have been following NAACP and let's say Arlington logo. Tonight with us, we're going to have some individuals, professionals from the National Park Service, Ms. Kimberly Robinson, who's the curator, and Ms. Jacqueline Cunningham Davis, again, both of National Park Service. We're going to allow them to provide us with so historical perspective about the Arlington House and the current project. They're going to be with us for about 20 minutes or so. We'll have some time on the backside to answer your questions. But later on in the program today, we will get a chance to talk a little bit about the Arlington logo and our initiatives here at the branch and what we're looking to do. So with that being said, Kimberly and Jacqueline, are you on the call? And
yes, we are.
Okay. Karen, you may want to pull up their slides so they can get started. For all of our viewers, if you don't mind stopping your video and just watch the presentation, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm gonna turn it over to Kimberly and Jack.
Thank you so much. I think we're going to start with Jacqueline was going to do an overview of some of what our educational partner, what she and some of our partners in the education community are doing. So Jackie, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in first. Oh dear, hopefully she may still be muted.
Trying to unmute myself. Can you hear me now? Can you?
Yes, I can hear. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you, Kim, for jumping in. So first of all, thanks so much for having us this evening. We've got some interesting perspectives that's going on at the House. And I would say I'd like to start off by telling you what's happening within Arlington and how they're supporting us through the few educator teams, even through the COVID-19. We've anxiously been working very closely together with Kenmore Middle School specifically, and then we also have a few other educators from outside the Arlington realm. I myself have been along the Parkway and field operations for a good bit of my career with MPS. And so it's my pleasure to tell you a little bit about what I do as well. And so a part of what we try to do over the years is to engage audiences and get them a part of what we're doing and provide resources like yourself that can help our staff cadre along the Parkway. we're in need always, and in my opinion, of multiple perspectives and having opportunities to collaborate and advise. So one of the things that you're seeing on the first screen has to do with what the overview is and what the charge has been over the last few months in trying to move things along with Arlington's educators and what kinds of learning opportunities we're looking to do, and also what kind of dialogue we're looking to have with our staff as well throughout these stages. And is anyone that's in education, you know, there's various stages that affect the middle school, as well as the high school populations, the underserved populations, and we're also reaching into our non-English learners. It looks like I can't control the slide, so I would say, oh, yes, thank you. One of the things that we just did many years ago, and we're in the process within the next, I hope, year or two, and that's to look at updating our long-range interpretive plan. So you're probably thinking, what is she talking about, interpretive planning, and how does that relate to telling the stories that need to be told, understanding the stories that need to be told, and public education? Well, that sets the stage for what we say we're going to do. So public education and stewardship. This is one of the things that's sort of a guiding principle that we come in and say, this is where we are. We want to engage large urban areas and other sites that are along the Parkway. We want them to become, quote unquote, the laboratories for public education and experience and involvement. And of course, understanding of diverse cultural and natural recreation and scenic resources. Next slide. So what we are working to achieve, as you probably know, in the climate here that we have now and the climate that I feel have had for quite some time, we always need to look at our stories. We need to look at what stories we're telling, how we're telling them, how they should be told, and what are our lessons forward. And when I say what are our lessons forward, I'm talking about our staff, our employee workforce cadre that's going out and giving these messages, as well as Kim and myself, who are our leadership stewards within the field operation of the George Washington Memorial Parkway. So it's implying that we're showing our visitors and folks like yourself, we're showing you and we're respecting your values, your concerns, and your welfare and safety. And that we are trying to inspire and inform, and we use the word provoke a lot because we also value who you are. So what does that mean? That means that we want to, when we're telling our stories and how we're telling our stories, we want to make sure that, and I'll go back to this word respect, we're respecting the values that we think of individuals that they have. We're learning how to be better stewards in doing so. And by doing so, we want to make sure that we're doing that safely. We want to make sure that we're also having some form of inspiration, and we're thought-provoking. So you go out of, let's say, a talk, or you leave, let's say, a museum exhibit, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, what an experience, or you start to jot down different questions that you might have. So, you know, these are the types of feelings that we're sort of hoping that you will get. And so that's why I say lessons forward. These are not old lessons, ladies and gentlemen. These have been around, these theories have been around for a while, for how we inspire our visitors and how we inspire various constituent groups within the National Park Service. However, there is this ongoing challenge to continue to think about how we're doing this. And especially now with the stories changing, the themes changing at Arlington House. Next slide. So the areas of focus and what are our educators doing that are working with us in Arlington, and our educator team that has working so diligently to look at the stories closer and look at how we can tell them a little bit differently. Now we're charged with the virtual experience, the e-book experience, all of these different mediums to sort of reach various constituent groups. So the focus is, yes, the people, and you are familiar with some of these names, so I don't need to go down that lifelong list of people that have tirelessly been working on the estate and are part of the Arlington story, which is so vast. But we are looking at the life and the culture. That emphasis again, we are looking at the enslaved and the emancipated families. We are looking at, yes, this was a Confederate property and it was a Union property. And of course, the Freedmen's Village story and its demise. And we are looking closer now at the environmental landscape, the scientific skills that are associated with the grounds. We're looking at that very closely at the middle school level and how we can make that story appropriate and engaging for those audiences. Next slide. I think you know about the millions that visit the cemetery. So this is one of my fortes here. It's that it's game changers. And this is what really we want you to consider being and perhaps maybe helping us. Game changers are institutional builders. And that's really what the Department of the Interior and what some of our other programs are all about. I have here the volunteer program and so many other partnerships that help to make our story more inclusive and uphold our equity. And certainly our business practices that we constantly need and help us, of course, in the leadership strategy. So we're always looking for volunteers that can come in and assist us. So you are, I think, game changers and builders to our platform. So I want you to feel like after you come out of this, that you could be a part of this community, and we welcome you. Next slide. So working towards, and what we're working towards, and you probably saw a few of these buzzwords, we're working towards communication. We're working towards leveraging our communication style, our partnership. We're trying to make new allies, bridges, and we're also trying to resolve perhaps questions that may have come up. And I put support here again, because all of those buzzwords are things that we are, and you'll see we're working hand in hand to continuously do. So yes, educate and working to enhance the storyboards. We're promoting a better understanding of these diverse stories. And we're also looking here, we're looking at how these stories can be guided for online learning components. And I think I mentioned that. So the other thing that you'll see is, I see questions popping up, and I'd like to take those afterwards. And I'm getting ready to finish up, and then perhaps we could take some questions, but I want Kim to also get on. So the underserved markets, as I mentioned earlier, those are very diverse, and of course our non-English learners as well. Next slide. So I want to just pause and say thank you so much for having me. And there's a lot more that's going on. This is really just simply sort of a teaser out. There's a lot of things going on with the educators. There's a lot of opportunities for advisement and engagement. There's a lot of opportunities to help to continue to tell the story because the stories are being changed in terms of how they're being told. So that's very important for you to know. Now, what I'd like to also yield, and I'll take the questions that are popping up on the screen.
Well, Jackie, do we want to wait till I go through, because some of the questions
yeah.
I think might be covered in what I'm going to go over briefly?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of questions. So if we could hold off on that, I think that might be helpful. So I want to yield to Kim because Kim's role is very important to the medium that's been changed. And you're thinking the medium that's been changed. Well, yes, it has been changed. And some of the stories have been changed and highlighted that perhaps weren't highlighted as well as they were in the past. So we're, again, trying to be inclusive in our stories and in our medium, and that's a hard thing to do. And so I think our step number 2 is to, in doing so, look at our audiences that's visiting, look at our descendants that help us as partners and want to continue to be champions and ambassadors, and then continue to open these markets up more so that we will be that truly inclusive group. So with that said, Kimberly has worked tirelessly for years in getting the new exhibits and also the collections at Arlington House. And I'm quite proud of her. I call her Wonder Woman because I'm not sure where she gets the energy to do all of this.
Caffeine.
And I hope she doesn't burn out. So Kimberly, with that said, I am going to yield to you at this time. Thank you. And we'll take questions afterwards, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie, for that very overly generous introduction. I was remiss in sending forward my PowerPoint. So what I'll do is I was going to share a screen. I think I have that option here. If someone can enable screen sharing for me, I think I should be able to go in and do that. Does the hostess disable that capability? I'll wait a few moments. So while I'm doing,
Karen, can you do that for Karen Jones?
Sorry about that. But while I get that capability, yes, as Jackie said, my name is Kim Robinson, and I am the museum curator for the George Washington Memorial Parkway, which includes Arlington House, which is one of our many units at the park. Briefly, what I'm going to do with you all this evening is go not only a touch on the bit of history of the site, but also touch on the 5-year project we're wrapping up this year to restore and rehabilitate Arlington House, the historic mansion, its outbuildings, the grounds, as well as develop new interpretive experience at the site. I'm very excited to be able to share that with you tonight. And to echo Jackie, thank you so much for having both her and myself to share our 5-year journey with you this evening. Wait just a few more moments for a bit of screen sharing. And I should mention, in particular, in regards to what I do, I am responsible for maintaining and caring for the museum collections that we have at the park. That includes over the 40,000 objects we have associated with Arlington House alone. I work very closely with our partners in visitor services to develop new exhibits at the house, as well as help with assisting with research requests and other such tasks. Just a few more moments. Looks like I still don't have screen sharing.
Kimberly, give me just 1 second and we'll get that set up for you.
Thank you so much. So sorry about that, but thank you for helping out with that. And thank you everyone for your patience for waiting. I know I see a lot of great questions going back and forth. And
so Kimberly, what we did, Kimberly, we just made you a co-host.
Oh,
so you should be able to share your screen.
There it is. And as I pull this up, let me just say that, yes, someone mentioned Stephen Hammond in the chat. Yes, we've worked, Stephen Hammond is definitely someone from the Syphax family that we've worked very closely with. And go. Here we are. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we're good.
Thank you so much. So thank you again for bearing with me with the technical difficulties. And I do apologize to our host for not sharing the slides earlier today. But with that, let's dive right in. One of the comments in the chat, of course, alluded to the name of the site. Of course, we are Arlington House, the Robert E. Lee Memorial. And I felt we would be remiss in not addressing the fact that this is we are in the middle of a major social justice movement, a racial justice movement, and Confederate monuments and those associated with the Confederacy are very much so associated with this movement. This was an editorial supported by our original donor for the Arlington House Rehab, David M. Rubenstein, and he, has been a proponent of remaining at the site as well as some of our partners in the community and the descendant community as well. And this is a part of our larger discussion we've been having internally for the last 5 years, even before the current events, even before the tragedy in Charlottesville a few years ago. We are very aware of the controversial nature of our site and its partial namesake, Robert E. Lee. And that is something that we've taken into careful consideration as we've reimagined our interpretation here. I won't get into the weeds with this too much, but just to keep in mind, we are, as I said, a National Park Service unit, and our mission is to preserve and protect our cultural and natural resources, and that includes sites like Arlington House. And we are one of the 419 units associated with the National Park Service, one of your many urban parks. And as always, thank you again for having us today, and I always encourage anyone I'm speaking to find your park and to find your history in this case. So, and really quickly, so Arlington House is a unit of the George Washington Memorial Parkway. We are a 25-mile scenic byway that covers DC, Maryland, Virginia. And Arlington House in particular is located within Arlington National Cemetery, which was once an 1,100-acre plantation estate. About that. But let's move on to the meat of our discussion this evening. So just to provide a brief overview to put things in context for what we've been doing for the last 5 years, Arlington House itself is a Greek Revival style antebellum mansion that was built between 1802 and 1818. The owner of the original 1,100-acre plantation estate was a gentleman called George Washington Parke Custis. It is a brick building. The mansion itself, the historic mansion itself, is a brick building that is covered in stucco and has a faux finish, a marbleized faux finish that is designed to evoke a memorial, as it was first built as a memorial of President George Washington. The house itself, as one of the things we focus on in our new exhibits, was actually built by the labor of those enslaved and free and indentured servants who helped to facilitate the construction of the site. And that's, one of the things we're highlighting in our new interpretive focus, which we'll touch on shortly. This is Arlington House today. As I mentioned earlier, we are wrapping up an extensive 5-year rehabilitation project that has seen the recreation of the faux finish of the site, efforts to make the grounds more accessible, and to really create immersive and exciting interpretive experience for all visitors to the site. These are some images of the historic slave quarters or dependencies that are currently extant at the property, the North and South slave quarters. And a few more images of the site as it is today. And for those who have not visited the site before, this is just a quick layout to show you the house is to the front on top of a hill within the cemetery, and the 2 slave quarters are directly behind it. So Arlington House. So our mission, so Arlington House is a very interesting legislative history as well as a very interesting interpretive mission. The house was originally established in 1925 by Act of Congress, and in subsequent acts of Congress, in particular in 1955 and again in 1972, the site was renamed to what we know it today, Arlington House, the Robert E. Lee Memorial. Originally, it was known as the Custis Lee Mansion, and in fact, many people who still come to the site still call it that. These are some of the figures that are associated with the history of the site. That, of course, includes President Washington and First Lady Martha Washington, Mr. Custis, who was the original owner of the plantation, and of course, along with Robert E. Lee and his wife, Mary Anna Randolph Custis Lee, the only surviving child of Mr. Custis. However, these are not the only stories and the only people that we focus on at Arlington House. As Jackie alluded to, we also, with our expanded experiences, are trying to better interpret and tell the stories of all of those who lived and worked at the plantation. And that includes Mrs. Selena Gray and her family, her husband Thornton and her children. That includes Mariah Charles and William Syphax. And that also includes Mr. James Parks, along with many, many, many others that we are trying to, with this new project, better tell their stories and honor their legacy. As I mentioned, one of our major focuses is to make sure that we're equally memorializing not just Lee, but all of those who lived and worked there. And that's by trying to honor their names and acknowledge their stories, as I'll showcase shortly. And also, one of our goals is to also really put forward to visitors, even in this modern landscape of a cemetery, that this was a plantation. And we're really trying to give visitors an idea of the expanse of the estate. So what kicked off this 5-year effort? As I alluded to earlier at the second slide, this project was able to be completed thanks to a generous donation of $12 million by David Rubenstein in the summer of 2014. This project, amongst many other things, was to help us update our interpretive exhibits, restore the historic mansion, repair many of our failing mechanical systems, to put it gently, as well as conserve and acquire museum artifacts. These are just a glimmer of some of the reports that we generated as a part of this project. Like many governmental projects, we're not slim on our documentation and our reports. You gotta love it. So to kick off, in particular, the interpretive side of it, we really wanted to make sure that we were engaging with our partners in the local community, both from our descendant community, the local community, as well as the scholarly community. So we kicked off, we held a historians roundtable, and the information from this roundtable was to inform the development of new interpretive exhibits, to make sure that all parties and all communities had a voice in what we were trying to do. This roundtable included noted historians, members of the descendant community, as well as fellow colleagues in the museum community, and noted authors. This was a very successful event, and it led to a lot of wellspring of information that our exhibit developers used to hopefully develop what are new, engaging, and immersive interpretive experiences at the site. So this is just a snapshot of the project team, along with our community partners that work to develop the exhibits that are being installed as I speak at the site. And that includes our Interpretive Design Center at Harpers Ferry, park staff, as well as the exhibit design firm, Healy Kohler, and the installer Formations. This is just a snapshot of the process that we underwent to develop the exhibits. It was a very careful and deliberate process that spread across several years, that had reviews and buy-in, hopefully, from our community partners. And that included everything from the project scoping, which was that roundtable, to various design phases, to looking at samples and reviews, and developing new audiovisual content as well. This is just a snapshot of some of our work along the way to get to where we are today. One of the things I'm most proud of in that lower left-hand corner is a photograph we were able to include in the exhibit of descendants of the Syphax and Parks family at the front of the Lincoln Memorial, to really show that this is their home, this is their legacy too. So just really quickly, because I was also involved in this side of the project, I did want to give short shrift to the extensive rehab that's really helped to showcase and help create a space for these new immersive experiences. This is just some of the folks that worked on the rehab side, including the general contractor, W.M. Schlosser. This was also a very careful and deliberative process that looked at, again, faux finishing, really stabilizing the mechanical side of it, helping improve the stability of the structures. For example, that's a French drain going around the North Slave Quarters to prevent water damage from that coming in from the foundation of that structure. We also, of course, as the curator, I do have to highlight something about the collection, and that includes we were able to do an extensive conservation of a variety of artifacts, including artifacts focused on not just the Custis and Washington families, but also a lot of our artifacts related to the African-American history at the plantation. Also, one of the great things about this project was our efforts in archaeology. As some of you may know, a lot of what we know about African-American communities at these estates are tied to archaeology that's done at these plantations. So as a part of this project, we also did extensive archaeology around the North Slave Quarters, as well as the select locations at the site. And some of it was tied to Section 106 compliance, but a lot of it was also, of course, tied to just protecting resources in the ground. To get to those new interpretive experiences and visitor experiences. The overarching theme that came out of that roundtable was that Arlington House itself is a place of division and unification. And we wanted to acknowledge that from the first time the visitor steps onto the site to the moment they leave. The site itself is, the exhibit itself is divided up between 5 scenes based on geographical locations at the site. Scene 1 starts with orientation, and that kind of gives you an overview of what you're going to learn today when you come visit. The next 2 scenes are our North and South slave quarters. Then we have the mansion, followed by the museum. That's been reimagined as well. Some of the key themes focused in these various scenes include exploring things such as the meaning of freedom and the experiences of the former enslaved once they were freed in 1863. We have some focused on Custis and his history and his honoring of President Washington, and themes such as the art of a patriot. One of the original reasons the site was established was due to Lee's decision in April 1861 to resign, so we highlight that a bit. And of course, we do a deep dive into Lee himself and his conflicting views on slavery and the complexity surrounding his use as a part of a larger lost cause narrative and issues such as that. Just really quickly, these are some of the tools that we're using to create that new visitor experience that I'm highlighting. That includes everything from wayfinding signage to an in-ground map that shows you the extent of the original plantation, as well as just general orientation and interpretive waysites that talk about the Freedmen's Village, the construction, the archaeological resources, so on and so forth. We also have a lot of audiovisual materials, 2 films, including one that has interviews of former descendants of the enslaved of Arlington House, that we're also excited to share with the public. A lot of the core and the foundation of these new experiences is based on techniques such as facilitated dialogue and audience-centered experiences. Like many sites in the Park Service, we're turning away from just lecturing at our visitors. We really want to create a space for conversation and discussion to really tackle and do a deep dive into some of these difficult topics and controversial figures like Confederate General Robert E. Lee. And to close, I just have a few snapshots of the exhibits as they're being installed, in particular focus on some of our new exhibits and focus on the African-American story at the site. This is in the South Slave Quarters in the former storeroom of the plantation. And this is a close-up of that image I shared with you all earlier with the descendants of Arlington at the Lincoln Memorial. And that's the first thing visitors see when they enter that exhibit space. One of the most exciting things, well, there's 3 exciting things about the new exhibits. One of them being that we get to showcase in a permanent exhibit the African-American artifacts in a way that they weren't before. 2, that we are acknowledging that Mariah Syphax was Custis' daughter from a relationship that he had with an enslaved woman, Ariana Connor. And 3, that we've been able to have a formal memorial installed in the North Slave Quarters, which you'll see in just a second. These are just a few more snapshots from the new exhibit in the South Slave Quarters with some of those African-American objects on display. And then this is just a little close-up of the restoration, in particular the slave quarters, including with the faux finish going in our historic smokehouse. Because careful attention was paid to restoring the slave quarters as well as the mansion. And then this is one of that film I briefly mentioned of the interviews with the descendants talking about the impact of Arlington House and its legacy on their families. And that's Craig Syphax, one of the descendants of the Syphax family, being interviewed. As I mentioned, one of my things I'm most proud of is that we are trying to, in this space, create a space for contemplation and a space for memorialization and honoring the voices of all of those who were enslaved, free, and indentured, who lived and worked at the Arlington plantation. And so one of the ways we managed to do that is through a memorial wall that was installed in the North Slave Quarter. Here it is in concept, and here it is as it's in place now. And accompanying that is a flip book that gives you a bit more information that anything that we have on anyone that was enslaved at the estate. And we're setting it up in a way that it can continue to be expanded as we move forward. And then in closing, as I wrap up this, I know we might have some questions. Hopefully we have time for that. As I said, there's multiple themes that we're exploring. And here's another image of the North Slave Quarters with our theme on the meaning of freedom and the paths to freedom that many of the enslaved there took. We highlight specific stories such as incident of a whipping of a gentleman named Wesley Norris and some family members who attempted to escape. So we really are working to explore stories that were not necessarily highlighted in depth before. And there's some more artifacts focused on African-American history. And some more in another immersive space we have in the North Slave Quarters focused on one of the children's nurse, Aunt Judy, and creating an opportunity for visitors to interact with some of things that she would have had in her daily life on the plantation. And in closing, this is one of the quotes that's going to be featured on a banner in our new exhibit in the museum building at the site. "A great nation does not hide its history, it faces its flaws and it corrects them." And we hope that with this exhibit, we are in our small way trying to expand the narrative, to move beyond our past interpretation, to really create a space for all voices to be heard. So with that, thank you so much. And I think hopefully we still have time for a few questions. Let me stop sharing. There we go. Thank you.
Well, Kimberly, thank you, and Jacqueline for a very well put together presentation. This presentation that you just gave to us, Kimberly, I'm going to ask that you share that with us to the email that was sent from the branch, so we may share that with all the viewers tonight. There's a number of questions in the queue, and I'm very mindful that we have a speaker up next. But what I am going to do is I'm going to, Jacqueline, I know you were looking at the questions there. We may have time for just one, because I do want to bring in our county board member here. So if you may, Jacqueline, there's a question earlier here. You were going to tap on this a little bit earlier. Is there anything you want to add? Maybe you, Kimberly?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at some of the questions. Obviously, we don't have time to answer them all.
Right.
But as I said, one of the first questions was in regards to the name. Yes, obviously, the Park Service, we have to follow Congress, so it does take an act of Congress to change the name of the site. But we are obviously, as I said, aware of that discussion. And when it comes time for the Park Service to weigh in and provide information in regards to that, we're prepared to take that to engage in that conversation. Just looking at some of the other questions. Yes, as I mentioned, the Syphax family, we work closely with some of the descendants throughout this entire project and hope to continue that relationship beyond this project. Let's just see.
That's well, Kim. We really appreciate your time. There's a number of questions. We will compile those questions and send those over to the National Park Service, to your team, and ask that you reply to us so we can then share with our members. But again, on behalf of all the members of the Arlington Branch NAACP and those that are viewing with us tonight, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to give us a very brief overview of the Arlington House Robert Lee Memorial. With that being said, we're about 2 minutes over, and I have the distinct pleasure to introducing tonight my good friend and a new member to the county board, Mr. Takis Karantonis. Takis, welcome. Thanks for coming out tonight. I know it's a busy night here in Arlington, but we're going to ask you for a little bit of your time just to speak with us about your first month in office, right? Tell us how you feel, and hopefully we will continue this long-standing partnership that the NAACP has had with all members in the political sphere, right? Whether that's Republicans, Democrat, Independents, we're nonpartisan. But thank you for being with us tonight, and please share with us a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Julius. Thank you, everybody. It's a real honor to start my first accountability round after a month in office here at the NAACP. And just in the spirit of Julius, I find myself agreeing with George W. Bush that the nation shouldn't hide its history. Well, on this, it's a first for me to agree with George W. Bush. Yes, I really agree with that. And the discussion, the many discussions we have had since this, very eventful, very eventful summer throughout the campaign that led to the special election, and since then it's about also revising, re-looking at Arlington's history and creating a new narrative, a more just and equitable narrative about that, and seeing also our symbols with new eyes. Throughout these weeks, I have to tell you that probably there was not a single day passed that we didn't receive letters, testimony that has to do with Arlington symbols, specifically also with Arlington logo. The Mr. Lee's mentioned actually. So asking the county board to take action on that. And I want to start with this, and I'm happy to answer more questions on that later. I feel very close to this cause. I think that the position that the NAACP has taken is a correct position. It aligns. I align with this position, and I think that it's absolutely time at the 100 years of that we are celebrating of Arlington, since Arlington's naming. We can really close a chapter, face our history as it is, call things as they are, and change the symbols that are not only offensive, but really belong to a very dark past. This is something that we will be, hopefully, I will be taking with my colleagues. I believe that there's an accumulated goodwill in the community, that there is a willingness to discuss and to take action on this. So other than starting again, going back to the first board meeting, I was sworn in on July the 14th. The first board meeting was on the 18th. And you probably all remember that we were talking a lot about equity during the election campaign. And exactly 48 hours after I was sworn in, we had 63 items on this board agenda, and a lot of important items had immediately important equity aspects. These aspects would have, passed, they wouldn't be underappreciated in the past, but they wouldn't have deserved the attention that they have deserved in this board meeting and all board meetings that will be coming after that. So one, for example, the Shillington plan. There was really an equity issue in a sector plan, and something that allows for density in the future. But the thinking was to make Shillington, which is today a predominantly white and upper middle class place, to put the seed in for being a more diverse place in Arlington, a place that welcomes people of color, that makes it possible, that it's not a social fortress. Or the Complete Streets scoring card. This is a program that with which we intend to improve our streets, to put sidewalks where there are none, to improve walkability, to improve multimodal service for everybody. So there was a lot of discussion about how equitable this is, how we look at the territory, and how we measure outcomes based also on equity criteria. We had good delivery on the pieces that need to fall in place to get the Jenny Dean Park done. WETA, as you know, has an important piece of real estate, and now we approved a plan for WETA to move their studios to Shillington proper, next to their main building, and so free up that space in quite soon, actually. And I was very happy that the Jenny Dean funding for the park is still intact, and it's not affected by any COVID-related cuts, and it's part of part of our CIP. We also sued the Trump administration for against the still president's decision, executive order to not to include undocumented immigrants in the apportionment of that follows the results of the census. And we still are fighting for a complete census in Arlington. I should mention that everybody should be counted. If you look at this moment, which communities are undercounted, these are the usual suspects. Unfortunately, again, these are the communities of color. These are the communities of where we have the highest index of immigration. This is the communities where we have the highest occurrence of undocumented citizens, neighbors in Arlington. So we need everybody's help to get this completed. further down, the two big issues that we have been talking, during the June and July discussions was the start of the public process to get a police practices review board. And that has happened. The county manager announced that, and the group has already started working. I very much look forward to hear from the group proper what kind of a public process they want to deploy so that all voices are heard. This is very important. So all voices find find a channel into this group. And this is really critical. I think that this is a very high priority. And I also am encouraged by the commitment of the county manager that the results and the report of this group will lead actually to a review board, a civilian police review board. And as you may remember, I was discussing very often, I couldn't commit before the election on the important detail, whether this review board should have subpoena power and investigative powers. And I think that after the first few weeks, I am more convinced than ever that this is an important goal that needs to be pursued with whomever it takes to pursue that goal. It's the state of Virginia, but we need to work very, very, focused on this so that it has teeth and that we get a civilian review board that actually deserves the name and does the job. At the same time, a little bit, a couple of weeks ago, the county manager announced that our current police chief is retiring right now, and the first week of September. He didn't give us very clear, he didn't go into specifics how the interim leadership will look, but he committed to a national search. He engaged also two consultants to do a procedural assessment of the department like it is today. And in answers, and as he was answering many emails that were asking how, the process that the aforementioned process, the process of the police practices review group, and this process will fit together, he committed to that we will have a public process and that there will be we will be welcoming the input in the kind of attributes and characteristics and issues that we want to see addressed in this search for new leadership of our police department. So these processes are really going forward, but I believe that my colleagues and I were very focused on what is exactly happening there. I believe that our community is very focused on what's happening there. And I very much hope that everybody keeps the level of engagement they have displayed until today.
You're good, Caucus.
Further, there is a lot. So
Yeah.
in general, COVID is going on still, as you know. This affects, as it was before, still disproportionately, mostly our, most vulnerable ones, immigrants and Spanish-speaking immigrants, first and foremost. There is still a disproportionate pressure on this population. The most cases are there. I was happy to see that with the Black American community, the percentages are not so off, but it's still there. Unemployment is still there. Issues of food are still very very important to address, and we are focusing on that. The eviction crisis is coming, and this will require quite some heavy lifting for the county board, from the county board and from the community as well. We see a lot of issues of that, I mentioned already unemployment, and schools will be opening in the way they are now planned to open, completely virtually at the beginning. And this poses, additional burdens, again, to those who can least, more to those who are more vulnerable. So I'm happy to stop here and
Great.
welcome questions and discussion.
So yeah, thanks again, Takis. And we have about 5 minutes left in this segment. But I want to go back again. I'm very appreciative that you are here with us this evening. And you feel have the same sentiment of those, many of us here at Arlington Branch NAACP and then Arlington County. There was a question that came up early in the thread, and it asked, would you, and again, we're kind of putting you in the hot seat here, would you be willing to take up a motion, right, at the county board to retire the logo? I know you've been there just a little bit, not too long, but I mean, we're talking about discussion, and I've been in Arlington long enough, 11 years, to know what discussion means, right? And we don't use this time tonight to talk about what discussion may mean to many, the Arlington way, right? So what can we look forward to as the NAACP and members in the community as it relates to moving the ball forward on retiring the logo? And secondly, as we talked about the police practice group, we know that SROs are not in the conversation. For whatever reason, I'm not sure. And how do you feel about that, right? I know that's something we're talking about perhaps down the road, but we believe strongly that if you're going to talk about police reform, you need to have SROs in the conversation in this large group right now. Your thoughts?
Yes. So to start with the SROs, I think I am on the record saying that I believe that SROs is a program that should be discontinued, and the reason why APS is not part of this of the police practices review group is a choice of APS. My colleagues and I have asked the manager whether he offered the participation to APS and offered to include these issues in the work of the group, and he said yes. And the APS, the superintendent, and I guess the school board as well, they wanted to have their own process on that. From my point of view, and politically speaking, I really have, very deep concerns about continuing the SRO program. I do believe that we can use the money and the resources in a far better place and have way better outcomes. At least this is my initial opinion and position on this. On the issue of retiring Arlington County's logo with a motion, I'm working right now with my colleagues. I don't want to, I want to be effective in this. This is important. And I am not, let's put it this way. I don't think that retiring the logo, the act of retiring the logo requires a broad discussion and an Arlington Way discussion per se. This is something that is part of the Arlington County Board. It's the corporate identity, let's say, of Arlington County. I do believe, though, that the county manager, my colleagues, etc., should have an input on this process. I would be as deliberate and focused as possible, as I possibly can, to promote the idea of retiring the logo. What would have to be more of a public process, in my opinion, would be the replacement of it. So these are two things, and I think that that we are just beginning with the discussion. To be honest, the question, my eyes were opened in discussions with the community and, with Carolyn Kane and others, and with Emma Violent Sanchez. I never personally, I have to admit that I never thought of the logo in the way I should have. And I'm very sorry about that. And now I see that very clear. It is to me it was to me quite a bunch of revealing conversations about the symbolism and how important symbols are. So again, you have my commitment to work with you and again, I'm aligned with the NAACP on this.
Thank you, Takas, for those words, and it's great that you are aligned with the NAACP. I will tell you before I let you go, as one of many leaders in the NAACP, or more especially a leader of this branch of the NAACP, I'm a bit disheartened and feeling a certain kind of way that a number of leaders in our progressive community, inclusive community, diverse community, have not stepped up and at least said to the public how they feel and what that symbol means to them. I will tell you, however, that I've read some very alarming emails that have been made public that gives me a pause, that people really don't understand what that symbol represents and how it affects people in this community. So yeah, it's been around for a while, but we know right now that it needs to be changed. And I will tell you that the NAACP will remain steadfast along with its partners and many people in the community until that flag, that logo is retired. We can move on and figure out a process later on. Thank you very much for your time and attention. You're more than welcome to stick around. We have a young lady from coming on next. But again, thank you, Takas. Thank you, Grace. I thank your assistants here scheduled this for us. You're always welcome to the NAACP. We know you're a very busy person, and all the best until next year. Right?
You are the reason why I'm busy, so you better knock the door. The door is actually open. You can just
yeah. We know that. Appreciate it, Takas. Okay, and for those of you that may have questions for Takas, the member of the county board, we will capture those questions and get them over to his staff and have them returned to us soonest. We're right on time here. We're a little bit over here, but right now I have the pleasure of introducing a young lady. Her name is Johanna Guzman. She's a visiting research scholar at Georgetown University Law Center and the political action chair at Loudoun County Branch NAACP. I had an opportunity to hear her a few weeks ago, and I've been knowing Johanna for a couple years now, but she was giving a presentation on allyship. So we're going to take a few moments tonight, and I'm going to let her come forth and give you her spin, her take on what does allyship mean. Johanna, are you here?
I am. Thank you so much
All right.
for the introduction. Yes. Hi, everyone. I will do a very condensed version of this crash course in allyship/accomplishship, which I like to do. My background is as a lawyer, and I've been with the NAACP for a few years now. But I think doing anti-racist work, the discussion had previously around changing this symbol is really an important thing that everyone needs to be embarking in right now. So I'm going to share with you some lessons that I learned in my journey to anti-racism, and hopefully it will be helpful to you. I am a lawyer, but I also have a health background in biophysics and physiology. So I'm somebody who very much appreciates empirical data, evidence-based policies, and the like. So when you look at the empirical facts, right? When you look at who is most affected by police violence, most adversely affected by incarceration, school segregation, evictions, job discrimination, you name it, we know, especially in America, that so much falls on the Black community. And as you enter into the space, whether you've been part of the BLM marches or whatnot, I think it's really important for all of us to stay grounded and understand that the best thing that we can do is fixing anti-Black racism within our own communities, whether that means, family, neighbors, whatever other organizations you're in. It's super important that that is where we start, where we have influence. And I think, once you start doing the hard work, you begin to realize so much how others are affected by racial discrimination, right? I think in America, there's this idea that, something is wrong with a community if they're struggling, so that is somehow attached to morality, instead of really recognizing that racial discrimination plays a lead role in keeping these communities underserved. Name it, it's racial discrimination. So when I think, this movement in like abolition of law enforcement and whatnot, it's really not about being super out of the box with this. It's truly about, let's recognize and see where funding is going, and let's recognize that increasing in housing, increasing in healthcare, increasing in, investments in community in general is a way to go. In my legal work, I know that so often when you actually focus on the most marginalized communities, when you focus on the people in the margins, you tend to include everyone. And the groups that have been most excluded tend to be the best at inclusion. A lot of these problems that we see really involves flipping the narrative, sort of flipping the script around how we approach things. And so you can really kind of search within yourself, and anytime there you kind of feel this discomfort or not understanding something, and unlearning the narrative of history that's been put forward, from very young ages throughout the states, it's really important to kind of be aware of that and understand that like a clear articulation of Black struggle is really what offers universal liberation, right? Like my rights are tied to yours. And it's a bit of a trite saying, but that kind of like the rising tide lifts all boats, especially if we are lifting the ones that are most underwater, it creates the most change. And you really can come to realize that white supremacy adversely affects all communities, including the white community, but most especially the Black community. And we all need to be active at stopping it. I just have two more quick points. I think it's really important as well to ensure that you aren't sort of doing performative allyship, right? But it's actual, true working to uplift Black voices and not silence them. To, double check yourself. If you're just like posting a picture, what are you doing beyond that is truly helping the community? Are you giving to Black owned businesses? Are you amplifying Black organizers? All of these things truly help to make sure that you're not just being a performative ally. And I want to end on this because I believe it's an incredible quote. It's in The Atlantic just this month by Ibram Kendi. It's called The End of Denial. He's also the founding director of the Center for Anti-Racist Research. So he definitely, and he's a member of the Black community, so he knows what he's doing. It goes, the heartbeat of racism is denial. Where there is suffering from racist policies, there are denials that those policies are racist. Where there is pain from racist ideas, there is that familiar refrain, I am not a racist. If the heartbeat of racism is denial, the heartbeat of anti-racism is confession. To be anti-racist is to admit that we've done wrong so that we can begin to do right. I think that is a wonderful, quick package of what you can do to begin to be a true ally / accomplice and actually work for social change.
Thank you so much, Johanna. And for those of you that want to learn more about Johanna or have some questions directly for her, I'm going to ask her to please, Johanna, put your email address in the chat box. But again, thank you for coming out tonight and spending a few minutes with us. We really appreciate it. And tell Pastor Michelle out there at Loud and NAACP, we have her back here in Arlington. But thank you again for coming out. Next up, Executive Director Karen Nightingale. We're a little bit tweaked here on the schedule. Are you there? Please unmute yourself. We're going to make an announcement of our 2020 Scholarship Award recipients, just who they are. More to follow on that. Are you there, Karen?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, the floor is yours. For about 2
All right.
minutes.
1 second, let me get the video on. Good evening.
All right, good
We
evening.
have exciting news that we would like to share with the membership in the community. Much deliberation. We have a set committee that has given us a scholarship awardees. Want to first say that we have everyone who applied was awesome and outstanding. And we have additional scholarships that we're presenting. So we're still reviewing some of those applications. But to give you a list of who we've been selected for the Willard Wooden Britton Foundation Award for this year, 2020, 2019, 2020, will be the first one is Ms. Rain Reed, and the second is Takia George. We are absolutely excited about these two students. You will see more information presented. You will have it written. We'll send you out the little bios of each one of these students. And please note that we have additional scholarships to be awarded. So we will be presenting that information out further, but we're extremely excited about it. And we thank every one of the students who participated. So there will be more to come. Thank you so much, Julius.
Thank you, Karen, for that. Do you by chance know the two schools for their students? What schools they're from?
No, not off the top of my head, but we would certainly have that in the data information.
Right.
Send
I
out.
think they were both. They may be from. I think they're Arlington schools. But thank you.
I think one is Yorktown, but I want to get them correct, so I'll send you that information.
Okay. Thank you. And again, there's going to be more additional scholarships presented, and next month those names will be shared with everyone. But we had a committee of 5 meet and make a selection for the Willard Britton Scholarship Award, and kudos to everyone. All right. With that, it's 8:45. Looking at the agenda here, it's tweaked a little bit here. Education Committee, we're going to spend a little bit of time. Is either one of our chairs from the Education Committee, Sharice or Simone, on? If so, please unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Hey, Cherie. You have a few minutes here. Go ahead. Give us a little update to the members here about what you're doing.
Sharice, you want to start off, or? I can't hear her. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Simone Walker. We don't have any incredible updates at the present time. We do have some new members, one of which we're very excited about, who is at this meeting tonight. Dr. Emma Villalon-Sanchez is joining our committee. So we will be definitely tapping into her expertise and resources and knowledge and wisdom to share with us from serving as an educator and formerly on the school board. Welcome, Dr. Villalon-Sanchez. The most important thing I will say, Julius, is that, as we begin to return to school on a virtual platform for at least the fall, the foreseeable fall. I think the Education Committee is really going to have to bird dog any equity issues arising and really stay on APS as far as digital equity to make sure all students are able to access information. We also, I think, need to think about pushing APS to start thinking about bringing back our most vulnerable students first, as safely as possible. For many students in our community, school is more than a place of learning. You know, it serves as social services for a lot of our families in terms of meals, in terms of mental health, and also for our special ed community, many of whom cannot really get adequate intervention virtually. Some of our students need occupational therapy, et cetera. And so I think we're just gonna have to really stay on APS to make sure that our disadvantaged and marginalized students do not continue to fall further through the cracks. This is uncharted territory for APS and for all of us, but we have to be the eyes and ears and the voices for those students.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Sharice to.
I agree with what Simone is saying, and also to to Piggy. I think we have probably for the first time since I've been in Arlington County a superintendent who might actually be responsive to community and to family. I mean, he's still a little bit new, but we'll see how that works out. But right now, I'm cautiously optimistic that we're getting more information out of APS than we normally get. It may not all come out smoothly, it may be choppy, but that's kind of part of the process because they're trying to do a lot right now. But we do have to stay on top of things like the equity issues. We need to know how many children are going into this school year without the ability to access school virtually. And I believe those students exist. I'm just not quite sure how we get APS to find those families who may be very invisible to us. I think that's going to be very important. I think it's also going to be very important that APS make sure that students are getting the remediation that they need, particularly for our special ed kids, but also for our kids who are not special ed but may still struggle. So, there's kind of, this spectrum of difficulties that students may have. We're going to have to stay on top of it. But Dr. Durant has made himself very available. He's accessible. I appreciate that. We have some things coming down the pike in terms of equity. I believe Aaron Gregory is working on the equity policy and the PIP that's related to that. We're going to be encouraging them to continue working with the county so that those policies are aligned and so that they're broad enough to touch our entire community, because we can't really talk about equity in a bubble. We have to talk about it in all of the contexts where it needs to occur. So that's just some of the work that we're going to be doing. We have a lot. We're doing the best we can, but it's going to be a busy year.
It is indeed. And thank you both, Simone and Cherie, for your brief report. But we know you're working hard behind the scenes, and you have a lot of new members on the committee. We're going to try to get through this in a timely manner. I'm going to ask the Vice President to come on and just give us a few words. I know he is one of the appointees to this police practice group. Mr. Vice President, are you there? Kent Carter? I know he's on. He needs to unmute himself. Please unmute yourself. Karen, if you can unmute Kent.
Ken is unmuted. He may be.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to we'll come back to Kent. We'll move on to our political action Committee, Detta? Is Detta still on?
Yes, okay. So I have a bunch of updates. We have been very active in the Political Action Committee. We are setting up a candidates forum that will happen in mid-September. We'll have all the local candidates for the county board and the school board. So I want to give a shout out to Cassie Daffin, who is organizing this for us, a wonderful new member of the Political Action Committee. We are still doing postcards. We sent out 2,500. Some of you guys wrote them on this Zoom, but thanks to Laura Biederman, who took over the postcard program, she has now gotten permission from Chesterfield to write into Chesterfield. So we can do a lot more postcards. Chesterfield is a very important area to write into. And so we'll be back in touch with everybody who wants to write postcards. And actually, I'm going to put in the chat, if that isn't there already, the email address for the post for Laura Biederman. So voter registration. Tomorrow is the kickoff for our voter registration program. We're starting with affordable housing. We're starting with APA. And we've got something like 6 or 7 of them planned. We're negotiating with AHC to start going into their buildings. And I want to give a shout out to Jan Marie Pena, who has been great in organizing all of this. And she, her email is also in there. So if you want to do postcards or voter registration, please email those guys. Legislation. The special session on police reform starts tomorrow, and Johanna knows that we went in with a regional testimony. We have several people keeping track of that. Jamie Abrams is working on legislation, and Katya Gilbo is going to be working on tracking legislation for us. 2 more things. Black Voices Change Lives is a program of national NAACP. If you just Google Black Voices Change Lives or go to the national website, you'll see they're doing phone banking and texts. And it's an important program to call into critical areas of the country, battleground states. Finally, demonstrations. There's a daily demonstration, almost daily, that happens on the corner of Wilson and George Mason from 4:30 to 6 at night. Small demonstration, big Black Lives Matter banner. If anyone wants to go out occasionally and join, that's a really good thing to do. But the big one is happening. It's happening August 27th and 28th. Actually, 28th is a physical demonstration in downtown DC. It's to commemorate Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, 57th anniversary. This, I believe, is being organized by National Action Network, Al Sharpton's group. And there'll be speakers from 11 to 1 and a march from 1 to 3. And the NAACP, in conjunction with this, is having a virtual march on Washington for people around the country, August 27th and 28th. Again, you can just go to the website and get information on that. And that's it.
Thank you, Detta.
This is getting all, what's the time? What's the time?
No, we're going to make it. And how many new members did you bring on board your committee?
There's something like 13 or 14 members now.
Yeah.
Am I full?
Yeah. Okay. We're going to move. I think there's a few questions out here, but we'll get to those in a second. Kent Carter texts me, the Vice President. Are you available?
Yes, I'm available. Can you guys hear me?
We just can't see you, but go ahead.
Oh,
Kent.
good. Okay, good. Hey, good evening, everyone. Sorry about that. Hey, so in the chat box, I just put the email for the police practices group. So that goes directly to them. Everyone make sure you copy that down and email all of your questions and concerns to the group. And I understand the transparency issue, and that actually came up tonight. We had our second meeting earlier today. So the first meeting was obviously just an introduction of everyone. So we didn't really get a lot of stuff done. And they just kind of broke down how we're going to be meeting over the following months. And so basically they're taking, I'm sure everyone saw the press release of the issues that we're taking up on the group, and they're breaking that down into subcommittees. So each of those main topics, those main issues will be broken down into subcommittees, and we'll be meeting. The main group is going to be meeting every other week. And in between the main meetings, the subcommittees will be meeting. And then we'll bring back the subcommittees, we'll bring back to the main full group, you know, what we discussed and different recommendations and different information on topics. They're going to be bringing in national experts and speakers to come in on the various topics to give the entire group, because as you've seen, it's a mixture of people, and not everyone has law enforcement background or mental health background, or, you know, on the various topics. So they're bringing in the national experts to bring best practices and that information to the group, so that when we do break out into subcommittees and you know, come up with different recommendations, we'll be able to make informed decisions, you know, that are, you know, best practices across the US that are actually working, so that we're not having to try to recreate the wheel, if you will, you know, in 2 months. So that's basically how it's going to run. Today's meeting was focused on traffic enforcement, and we had a chief of police from Georgia come in and talk about a study that he gave. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but what I plan to do is write this into, you know, some type of report and get it emailed out to all the members, so that you guys can have details of what's going on. As far as the public involvement, we brought that up again today. And so they're still trying to figure out how we're going to involve the public, you know, with the live streaming, invite the community to come in and actually view the meetings when we do have these national speakers that come in. So it's going to be like a county board meeting. So you can come in, view, and listen to the national speakers, the experts, ask your questions, give your input along with the email address. That's a great opportunity for you guys to reach out. So please disseminate that email address to all your friends and colleagues, so that, you know, we make sure that we get as much community input as needed. As everyone else has said, that's hugely valuable. And we want to make sure that we represent everyone when we're making these recommendations, because, you know, we got one good shot at this to get it right. So we want to make sure that we can, you know, represent the entire community and get the best recommendations out, so that those can get implemented as soon as possible. And with that, Mr. President, I yield my time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Vice President. We're going to move on briefly. If you have questions or concerns about police practice group, the email's in the chat. You can also email the Arms and Branch NAACP, and we'll take it for action. Environment and Climate Justice Committee, you have about 2 minutes. Gabrielle, are you on? Kieran, you may need to unmute her, or Priya.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You have about 2 minutes here. Just everyone who's listening here, we just stood up our Environmental Climate Justice Committee. Gabrielle is one of the co-chairs. Gabrielle, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Priya and I are new co-chairs. We're new to this branch of the NAACP. So really excited to get started on lots of new things. We've got about 5 or 6 people who joined us, and we're going to be having our first monthly meeting in about a week or so. So that's exciting. Priya and I have been talking to different stakeholders in the community, reaching out to different people, just starting to get the lay of the land. And so we're trying to see what we want to be focusing our efforts on. It is just sort of getting started, but we're really excited. I think that's about it though.
Okay. We're so excited to have both you, Gabrielle and Priya, be on board with NAACP. Of course, we may end up having to have a meeting in due time just dedicated to environmental climate justice, but you've been in good contact with, great contact with Karen Camplin, who's our chair at the state level for environmental climate justice, and she's been helping us a good bit. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, everyone, it is 8:59. On the schedule, I was supposed to have 5 minutes to run my mouth, but you know, in keeping with the agenda, I will be on, we'll stay on for another 15 minutes. There being no further questions, Kent just loaded up in the chat times of the meeting for the police practice group. You can look at it there. But again, we thank you on behalf of all the members and the executive committee. Thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. The meeting is adjourned, the official meeting.